The night that sentence reached me, it did not arrive gently. It landed like a stone thrown through a quiet window, shattering the calm I had built around my loneliness. The air between us grew heavy, thick with unspoken years, and in that moment I felt the weight of every empty chair at my table, every unanswered call from home. Every morning I woke up pretending that solitude was a choice and not a wound. The words came to me softly, almost like a secret carried on breath, but they shook the foundation of the life I had carefully balanced. And before I could protect myself with reason or fear, something inside me broke open, and I felt my heart step forward where my mind had always stood guard. Before this story goes any further, take a moment. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, in the quiet miracles that happen when two broken paths cross, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel The Kindness Chronicles. Your support keeps stories like this alive, stories that remind us we are never truly alone. I had learned how to live with absence the way some people learn to live with pain. Slowly, carefully, pretending it did not shape every movement. My days were predictable, almost rehearsed. Wake before dawn, work until the sun felt like an accusation through the window, return home to rooms that never changed because no one else was there to change them. My father called often, his voice carrying both pride and worry, and beneath every conversation lay the same question he never asked directly but always meant. I told him I was fine. I told him life was good. I told him lies that sounded reasonable enough to survive another week. She entered my life without ceremony, like rain beginning in the middle of a sentence. There was nothing dramatic about the first days, no instant realization, no thunderous music swelling in the background. Just a shared space, a shared silence, and a kindness that did not demand attention. She had her own history, her own fractures, her own way of holding herself as if she had learned to be small so the world would hurt her less. We moved around each other carefully at first, two people afraid of stepping on invisible scars. Time has a way of revealing what words cannot. I noticed how she lingered in doorways as if unsure whether she was welcome anywhere. I noticed how she smiled with effort, the kind that cost something. I noticed how she listened, truly listened, when I spoke, as if my ordinary thoughts were worth holding. And somewhere between shared meals and late evenings where the silence felt less lonely, something began to shift. Not loudly. Not all at once. Just enough to make the nights feel shorter and the mornings less heavy. The challenge was never love. The challenge was fear. Fear shaped like responsibility, shaped like the past, shaped like the quiet voice that reminded me how easily good things can be lost. I had seen marriages crumble. I had watched promises fade into obligations and then into regrets. I told myself I was protecting both of us by staying still, by keeping everything unnamed. But stillness can be its own kind of cruelty. When my father's health began to falter, the distance between my life and his expectations shrank painfully fast. His voice grew weaker, but his concern grew sharper. He spoke of legacy, of family, of not wanting to leave this world worrying about the son who carried his name but walked alone. I listened, nodded, reassured him again, but after each call the house felt emptier than before. She noticed. She always noticed. She never pressed, never demanded answers, but her presence became a quiet mirror reflecting truths I had tried to avoid. The night everything changed did not announce itself as important. It began like any other, with ordinary sounds and familiar shadows. Yet the air felt charged, as if the walls themselves were listening. She sat nearby, her hands folded, her eyes distant, and when she finally spoke, her words carried not pressure but concern. She told me about my father's words as if they were not a command but a worry, something fragile that needed care. She told me that he believed I deserved companionship, that he believed a shared life could soften the burdens I carried alone. I felt exposed, as if someone had read aloud a letter I never intended to send. Anger rose first, sharp and defensive, but beneath it lay something far more dangerous. Hope. I thought of my father sitting somewhere far away, imagining a future for me that I had refused to imagine for myself. I thought of the woman beside me, who had already woven herself into the fabric of my days without asking for permission. I thought of how tired I was of pretending that independence meant isolation. The words I offered in return were not planned. They came from a place I had kept locked for years. I did not frame them as a promise or a proposal. I framed them as an invitation, as simple and terrifying as opening a door that had never been opened before. In that moment, the room felt smaller, the world outside less relevant. I realized that sometimes the bravest thing a person can do is not to chase something new, but to stop running from what is already there. From that night onward, nothing changed quickly, and that was its own kind of miracle. Love did not fix everything overnight. We still carried our fears, our habits, our doubts. There were days when old patterns resurfaced, when silence returned heavy and uncomfortable. There were moments when the weight of expectation threatened to crush the fragile thing we were building. But there was also patience. There was honesty. There was the steady, unglamorous work of choosing each other again and again that I began calling my father with a different voice. Not one of forced cheer, but one. And before you go, I have one special request. In the comments, write this line so we can recognize one another. Write, I choose love over fear. Because sometimes, all it takes to change a life is a whispered truth, an open door, and the courage to say stay here, with me.